Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to UV unwrap in Maya software and also how to texture in Substance Painter. I hope this video is beneficial for you and let's get started right away. So I got this scene in the Maya software. It's a lighthouse scene. It's all modeled and everything. I didn't model this, by the way. And the problem with the scene is nothing, like there's a lot of objects that are just not UV unwrapped. So if I go click on the workspace, change the general to UV editing, um, as you can see, it's like there's red pieces. You want all your pieces to be blue and not red. So yeah, and also whenever possible, you want these pieces to be together. So if you right click and go here to UV shell, you can see these pieces are not stitched together. So this is 6 pieces in total. And the white seams, it's all around the blue square basically. And you want as little of this white as possible. So to fix this, you want to right click, go to edge mode, and then if I zoom in with Alt plus right mouse button, I can select this edge right here. It's hard to see. So this one right here. And by the way, the lighthouse scene will be in the description if you want to do this yourself. Okay, and then you want to hold shift and click left click on the other one, and then shift left click, and then shift right click, move and sew edges, move and sew edges. So if you do that, there's no more seams like right here, which is good. That's what we want. And then you want to continue to do this for basically all the other pieces. You can just click G on your keyboard to um, redo an action. So click G, and there, and that is how you properly unwrap this object right here. So if I go back to object mode, I'm going to make this space a bit bigger. Like I only UV unwrapped this object right here. I didn't UV unwrap this object. So if you have this scenario where there's two of the same objects, you can just transfer this UV unwrapped model to this model right here. And to do that, you want to click on your UV unwrapped model, shift left click on the other model, and then go to mesh, and then open the transfer attributes box, option box. And now make sure your settings are reset in case you've used it before. And you want to change the sample space to component and then click transfer. And now if I left click here, you can see it UV unwrap this thing that quickly. So you could just shift right click this, G to repeat the actions. And yeah, that's basically how you UV unwrap these big cubes, like fence railings basically. So now how would I UV unwrap something like this? Well, I would make an automatic UV unwrap. So it makes everything super small, but if you scroll in, you see it. And it's not that bad. The problem with automatic UV unwrapping is it unwraps a bunch of different objects. So like it unwraps this object into a bunch of smaller pieces, and that's not a good thing. You want to have as little, like as the least amount of pieces as possible. And yeah, so basically this only has, if I go to UV shell, it only has uh 7 pieces or 8. I don't know what this is. So you can always move and sew edges again, like I said, to just make the pieces less pieces basically. And then now this is basically 4 pieces, and this is basically a scratched out cube. So it's okay if it has 4 faces because a cube basically has that amount. Like, imagine this as a 3D cube, but you're unwrapping it into a 2D object. So this UV shell would be one side of the cube, this one would be another, and then, yeah, but you need 6 pieces for that. Okay, never mind what I just said right there. So once we got this UV unwrapped, and we can try stitching it together more if you really want to. So after, go to UV shell and then drag your box and select all the pieces and then Control plus L to lay them out. And now, what's next? So we got a lot of objects. I'm not going to UV unwrap every object, obviously. So how about, like, let's see, how about this piece right here? Or this piece? You can click on Control 1, and that will basically make that the only object in the scene. So before you UV unwrap anything, you want to delete the history, freeze transformations, and center the pivot. That's what I usually do. And then you want to create something like, it could be an automatic, camera-based, cylindrical, planar, spherical. But this looks like a cylinder, so you want to do a cylindrical. And if you Control U to unfold this, this looks okay. It doesn't look the best. So you go back to object mode, create, and just do an automatic. Now as you can see, what automatic does is put all these little pieces together. So what I do is double click on this edge right here, move and sew edges, right click, go to UV shell, click on it, and then Control U to unfold it. And boom. And then you could do the same here. Unfold. You don't even have to unfold, this looks good as it is, but I'm going to do it. And then you want to select both and Control L to lay them out. And that's basically 2 pieces for this object right here. 2 UV pieces. That's pretty good. So Control 1. And then I'm going to unwrap this object right here. So Control 1, UV shell, and then actually object mode, I'm going to create an automatic. And I could do the exact same thing here. So you can't really sew this together. Oh, you actually can. Okay. So yeah. And how about for this rock right here? Well, I'm going to make a spherical unwrap for this. Then Control U. And if you see this fixed non-manifold geometry box, you just want to click on Fix. But actually, you don't want non-manifold geometry at all. So go to Mesh, and then Clean Up Options. So I'm going to reset my settings, and then faces with more than 4 sides and non-manifold geometry and clean up. So now if I go to UV shot and unwrap this or lay it out, as you can see, it doesn't have non-manifold geometry anymore. So create spherical. And then I don't even have to unfold this, just makes it look more like a sphere, and then Control L. And you can see there's this small piece right here. So if I click F right here, it's because this is a separate piece. And I don't even know why this is here, so I'm just going to delete it. And go to object mode, control 1, and there we go. We unwrapped our rock over here. So yeah, that's the basics of UV unwrapping. Um, so like for an object like this, which is just a plane, this is a planar UV unwrap. So UV unwrap planar. Um, so create planar and on the y-axis, so it points downwards. And yeah, you could stretch this out. You can move it, rotate it. And as you can see, this box, it's the projection. So since I did it on the y-axis, it's projecting downwards like this. So press W on your keyboard and you can see the green arrow is the y-axis, X arrow is the red arrow is the x-axis, and the blue arrow is the z-axis. And then we have these trees, which are just a bunch of parts. I would just create an automatic UV unwrap for this. But look how many parts this is. It's a lot. So I would honestly do a spherical. And then unwrap this. As we can see, we encounter this problem again. So just do edit, delete, mesh, clean up, then create spherical. And sometimes it doesn't even clean it up, so just fix it. Control L. And here we have a bunch of pieces. I didn't talk much about the uh, cylindrical and camera-based UV unwrapping. So the cylindrical, so for example, this cube right here. If I create a planar, not a planar, a camera-based, as you can see, it literally projects from the camera. So this is good if you want to do like something like hold on. So create camera-based. It's basically like a planar UV unwrap kind of, but from your own camera. And then there's the cylindrical UV unwrap. So if I undo all of this, so basically the cylindrical, let's take a cylinder for example. That would be the best example. And then you just create a cylindrical. So we can see we have these UVs right here. So we want to drag that out. And then just UV unwrap it sort of. That doesn't really work. So if you go to edge mode and double click this and do Shift X right here, it would make a seam, I think. Yeah. So cut, I think because there's nothing. So create camera based, go to edge mode, double click Shift X, it makes a seam right here. A seam. And now if you select UV shells and then select this right here, a seam cuts an object. You can also stitch it back together with so. And basically you want to also put a seam right here. So now if I unfold all these three objects, It's a really nice UV unwrap right here. And another way to unfold this is by going to modified unfold, or just unfold right here with shift right mouse button. And then layout is the same thing. So Control U, Control L, or just layout right here. Modify layout. So yeah, that's the basics of UV unwrapping. Also, to cut and sew edges, you could also go to UV, 3D cut and sew UV tool. So I could make a seam just by clicking. Or by dragging my mouse. So do Control to delete the cuts, and yeah, double click. The 3D cut and sew tool is very good. And then just click Q to exit the tool. And as you can see, this is not very UV unwrapped pretty well. Oh, there you go. Just switch it from here to here. You could use the checkerboard to see how your UV unwrap looks like. As you can see, this doesn't look that good, so I'm going to Shift X to make a cut here, and then unwrap that, and that's a lot better. Now we can lay this out. And Shift right click, you could also orange shells. There's a bunch of options right here. So what I use is orange shells and then lay it out. You can also stack these shells together, but I don't recommend doing that. So stack shells. Stack similar shells, stack and orange, unstack, randomize. That's pretty weird. I think the gather shells. Oh, you could distribute the shells. You could do a lot of things, and you mostly could just find these settings yourself. So that's the basics of UV unwrapping. So now let's texture one of the objects we just UV unwrapped. So how about this object right here? So you want to do File, Export Selection, and then before you do that, you want to set your project. So File, Project Window, New, Project, Tutorial, Lighthouse, and then save it with Control S, File, Export Selection. And I like to save it in the Assets folder. So test. And also when you export it, make sure embed media is on so you can export the textures with it, but that's after we texture it. So I'll show you that after. And basically, if you want to export meshes with textures, only Lambert, Blinn, and I think there's one more material works for exporting with textures. So Fong, yeah, Fong. I'm not sure about Fongy. So we could just go to Substance Painter, click on New, and select a file. Now you want to find a project. It's usually in Maya. Projects. And then you want to do tutorial, or the project you chose, so the name of the project. And then in the sets folder, I'll get my test and then change the resolution to 2048. And then you press OK. So, oh, it seems to exported this object right here. Wait a minute. It was only supposed to export this. But anyways, and then in Substance Painter, you can add smart materials, make it look all nice. But before you do that, you want to bake the textures, so bake mesh maps. And then change the resolution to 2048. We don't need world space or ID. And then increase the ambient occlusion secondary rays to 256 and ignore backface to always. Curvature to 256. We don't need position. And also thickness. And then you want bake. So now we have to wait for that. And then return to painting mode. And now what I like to do is delete all the layers right away. Let's put bone stylized, for example. That looks pretty nice. Or red aluminum. I'm not going to get into too much of Substance Painter in this tutorial. Maybe next time. So File, you want to export your textures when you're done. And put it in the source images folder of your Maya project. So projects, the tutorial lighthouse, source images, and then you want to create a new folder and aluminum textures basically. And then export that, go back to Maya, assign a new material. So right click and then assign new material, and you can add a shaver, a shader, but like you can't export with the textures to Unity or something like that. So so you could add a Lambert if you want to export with the textures, but I'm just going to add a standard surface because then I'll be able to access a lot more of the settings, such as the roughness and also the normal map. So if I change color to File, this is the base color basically. I go into my folder and choose the base color. And if color spaces, you can't change that. If that happens, go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Color Management, and enable the color management. Save. And now if you reload this, so if I do make a change right here, you could click on this utility, raw, and then make sure alpha is luminance is checked. So then I want to go back to my material. So I'm going to delete the history to make it less of a hassle. Change the roughness in the specular. Choose the roughness. Change it to raw. Alpha is luminance. Then go to geometry, bump mapping to change the normal map to File. Tangent space normals. Go to Arnold, make sure flip G is off and I think flip R is on. And then bump value. So you want to get the normal map of that and change that to raw. And then if you add this Arnold light, sky dome light, you could just render it in Arnold. So if I click here, it's basically rendering right now. So Arnold, I thought I already had a skybox, but I guess not. That's why I didn't click on it. So if I go back, and we got a nice texture right here. So yeah, I think I covered the basics. By the way, I didn't upload in a very long time, and I'm sorry about that. I had school and stuff. I was pretty busy. So yeah, I'm probably not going to make tutorials on Roblox anymore. I'm going to change to Unity, Maya, and software like Substance Painter. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. That's the most important part. I'll see you guys later, and thank you for watching.